Hi guys, I'm Graham Otteson from Gourdlandia, and my intention is to do a bunch of instructional videos for growing and crafting gourds. And I thought I'd start out with seeds because it all starts with the seeds. Most of the videos will be at Gourdlandia at my shop, but this one is at my house because this is where I start the seeds. So I guess the first question might be where to get seeds. I grow my own seeds, but I also get seeds from several seed suppliers. You can find seed suppliers listed through the American Gourd Society's website or on my website, gourdlandia.com. There's a growing gourds page. I wouldn't steer you towards the big seed suppliers because they tend to have just a couple of varieties. People who are really selling gourd seeds and just gourd seeds might have 2 or 3 dozen varieties to choose from, and that's a much better selection. So you could go to any of those places. Blue Whale Arts, Shumway has some, and Benjamin's Landing. Those are 3 that come to mind, but there's other places as well. You can also save your own seeds. I'm going to do a whole separate video about that because there's a few tricks. When to start the seeds? I like to start the seeds about 4 weeks before I plant them out. So you got to think back from not only when your last frost date is, but also when the soil's going to be warm. They don't want to go out just when the possibility of frost is over, but when the soil's actually going to be warm. And I want to back up a little bit. You know, you don't even have to do this whole starting the seeds indoors thing if you live in a warmer climate where you can just directly sow the seeds and there's plenty of time for them to get to maturity. The reason we're stretching the season here a little bit is because we live in a colder climate and the gourds have a long days to maturity. It can be 110 to 120 days. So just to be sure that the gourds have enough time on the vine to get to be really good and mature, and that way they'll dry well, you want to start them early as possible, but not too early that they'll suffer in the cold. So let's see, I have a whole bunch of seeds here that I mostly already started, some of them, but I'm going to show you right from the beginning. So here's one that we grew the gourd and saved the seeds here at Gourdlandia. Got a little desiccant in there in the jar. These are bushel gourd seeds. There are so many different shapes and sizes of the seeds, just like the gourds themselves. But this is a variety called bushel. And gourd seeds, just like the gourds themselves, they have kind of a hard shell. Like the case of the seed is, it's hard for the water to penetrate into that. So in most cases, you'll benefit by scarifying the seeds. I'm not actually sure if you say scarifying or scarifying, but it's that word that means basically to rough the seed up. Some people will take fingernail clippers and clip the little shoulders. You don't want to clip the pointy end, but you can clip the shoulders of the gourd. I like to just use sandpaper. I find that an easy way to do it. So basically what I do is I take the seed and I rub it on the sandpaper on both of the edges of the seed. And then I do the sides a little bit too, depending on how many seeds I'm doing and how fast I want to get it done. But I do like to get the edges well sanded. So I'll show you a few of them. The other night I was doing this while we were watching something on the computer, you know. Pretty mindless activity. Doesn't take too long if you're only doing half a dozen seeds. So anyway, that basically when you're scarifying, what you're doing is roughing up to allow the water to penetrate into the shell of the seed, into the seed case, and into, you know, the juicy parts of the seed more quickly. In the past,
before people and gourds got together, so long ago, 12,000 years ago or more, this would have, the seeds of the gourd would have gone through the digestive tract of whatever animal ate them, and so they would be chomped a little bit by their teeth and roughened up by the acid in their intestines. And it's so what we're doing, in a way, scarifying the seeds, is to mimic that action. And some people actually use hydrogen peroxide. You can soak the seeds in a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. It's just a chemical scarification. The way I do it is I do the sandpaper scarifying first, and then soak them in hydrogen peroxide for about half an hour or so, and then I take it out of the hydrogen peroxide. Let's say half an hour went by, and put it in with some water. And of course there's a bunch more in there, and then you want to be sure you label them so you don't get them mixed up. That label says sub-mini, which is not the right label, but you get the idea. I also keep a list, because it's so easy to get mixed up, of what seeds I've started and where they came from. So that's scarifying. And the next thing I do, so I let them soak for 24 hours, plus or minus. Sometimes it's half a day, sometimes a day and a half, but something like that. Then I set them on a flat with some potting soil in it to germinate. So other people do this by putting it in paper towel that's wet in a plastic bag and keeping that someplace warm until the seeds germinate. I found it was tricky to moderate the temperature and humidity right. The seeds were starting to smell funky. Many years ago I started doing it with this method, where I have the seeds, I have a flat with some potting soil in it, and I lay the seeds on the potting soil, and because there's more mass, you can heat it up and pay attention to the humidity more easily. Again, I'll just say again, if I lived in, Southern California or Texas or somewhere, I would just be planting my gourd seeds directly in the soil. I'd skip this whole step. So these are seeds that I started. I did the whole thing with the scarifying and soaking 4 days ago, I think it was. And some of the seeds I've already taken out and put into pots. Some of them I left here on purpose so I could show you like what's a good stage for planting. Clearly this one is beyond the planting stage. This one's trying to grow right here on the flat. So unfortunately, I don't need all of the ones that I started, so those ones won't go. I've already got some of those in pots. Here's an example of, basically it's as soon as it sticks its little white tongue out, you can pot it and put it in the bigger pot. If anything, this one's actually a little long. I'm looking, this is a better stage. Once you just see that tiny little white tongue sticking out, basically the seed has proven itself. It's viable. It's going to become a gourd plant. If you wait until they're at this stage, it's a little riskier to plant it because there's a good chance that little radical, that's the name of that thing that goes down, that's going to possibly break off when you plant it. So just as soon as it says, I'm here, I'm ready to grow, that's when you can plant it in your pot. As I was saying, once you've soaked your seeds for 24 hours, then you put them on, and you want to make sure when you put them down that you're making a diagram, you're labeling everything carefully, and when you move this dishcloth or whatever you're using to keep it covered and moist, you want to be sure that you're not disrupting the seeds all over the place. All right, so let's see, there was one of these that was in a pretty good stage for planting. Like I said, it may be a little bit long, but I'm going to show you how I plant them. So I've got 6-inch plastic pots.
with potting soil. I really love this potting soil from Vermont Compost. It's just so great. The gourds seem to really, really love it. And I use a plastic pot. I used to use the peat pots, but I did want to take the peat away because it feels like it impedes the growth of the roots a little bit, even though they can grow right through it. I feel like it inhibits them a little bit. And when you tear the peat pot away from the soil, you can kind of feel the little roots giving way, like they're ripping a little bit. Gourds are squash plants, and squash plants don't like to have their roots disrupted at all. So after several years, I finally discovered these big plastic pots are the way to go, if you ask me. I can put the gourd in there, and then the roots of the plant are going to fill the whole pot up, but it's not going to get a chance to get all root bound. It's not going to be a total tangled mess in 4 weeks. It's still roomy enough for the roots. When I plant the seed, I do something that's a little bit over the top. I know I don't really need to do this, but I like to do it because I feel like it's polite for the seed. So you see the little radical coming down, right? I like to put the wide end of the seed down, which is a little bit counterintuitive. The radical, that little root, is going to go down. Cotyledons are going to pull themselves up and out and sprout like that. So if you put it upside down, the little seed will manage just fine, really, but it's awkward, right? It's pushing it up. So I just like to do it because it's good to plant your seed politely. And then you cover it up a little bit. Here's another, I'm just showing you a couple things I do that are crazy over the top. I like to smooth out the top like that to make it all smooth, because in just a day or two, that seed is going to sprout and you'll be able to see it erupting out of the soil. Better if you flatten it out like that. That's why I do it that way. So now I just keep these all. We're gonna go over where I've got these seeds. Here's a bunch that I put in the pots 2.5 days ago. This one is, I'm so eager to see what comes here. It's gonna be a big plant. And then here's two that I couldn't see any sign of these this morning, and just a few hours later. So they start out with a little loop like this. You can kind of see it's coming. I've got the pots under a grow light, and the goal is for the plants to be compact, healthy, not skinny and scrawny and pale and striving for the window. You want to see a seedling that's really healthy, because that'll make for a better, healthier plant in the long run that can actually fend off disease, and it's better with pests that way. You just want your plants to be really healthy. So I'm going to talk about seedlings in a different video, but that's what I have to say about seeds. Thanks for watching.